Hi, my name is TJ, and welcome to my June wrap up where I read 25 books for June. Without any further ado, I'm just going to get straight into the video. I do want to announce quickly before I forget, I'm doing a giveaway for this month, and the rules are as follow. You simply just have to subscribe because you'd have to be subscribed to be notified when I post the winners. And you will just comment down below which book you'd like to win. You can share with a friend, tell a friend, tag a friend, whatever. Those are just the rules. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up. I do also want you to share what books you've read in June as well. I'd love to hear from you. I'm looking some recommendations for my July TBR, so would love to hear from you. And if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I try to do weekly book reviews along with other book contents, but try to be patient with me. Now I'm just gonna get straight into all the books I read. I'm not sure if you are into stats, but I'm just going to go ahead and provide the stats anyways. I might leave them in this blank space I have here.
So I read a total of 6,858 pages. The average rating for all the books is, I think, 4.12. I had 10 5 stars. That's a lot, I know. Between 4 to 4.5, I think I have 7 of those. I have 5, 3 to 3.5. And I have 1 2-star and 1 1.5.
Forgive my voice. So we're just going to get into the first book I read. So I do have a book written down with everything because I do want to remember because 25 books is a lot of books. And so I will be back 1 minute. I'm going to get some water because my throat feels really dry. Just brush my teeth. So just bear with me. I'll be right back. Well, now that I'm hydrated, I'm just going to get straight back into the video. So the first book I read is, I'm going to look away because I do have a book down here with everything. So the first book I read is The Echo of Old Books by Barbara Davis. This just follows, I'm going to put a picture here for all the books. This follows Ashlyn. She has this gift where she can basically get the echoes from the book she touched, basically echoes of what the previous owners felt when she touched books. Then she discovered 2 manuscripts that they were supposed to be books, but they weren't published or anything, so 2 manuscripts, and so she basically tries to find out what happened because there is a love story within those manuscripts. So that's basically what the book follows. I'm just trying to see if I have any important pointers I wanted to add. Now, this book was a 4.5 for me, and one of the things that I really loved about this book is how connected I felt to the characters. Sometimes you're reading a book and you know how lost you can get within that world. I felt very much connected to them and how human they felt. They didn't feel like persons on a paper to me. So Ashlyn and Ethan is the guy who actually brought her the manuscripts that took her down the rabbit hole. So they eventually develop a relationship, and I love that, but I wish I had gotten to see that more on paper, which is probably why it's not a full 5-star for me, but really loved it anyways, and I most definitely recommend. The next book I read is Selection, which is by Kiera Cass. This is book 1 of the Selection series. Now, this is still from America's point of view, and I did not like America as a character. It was very confusing to be in her head. She eventually goes on to have this love triangle between her ex from home, which is Aspen, and the Prince Maxon. Now, this book is kind of, if you've watched like The Bachelor, this is kind of like The Bachelor. So this would be like a bachelorette. So we're in a new America called Ihli. And so when the princes come of age, they basically have this event they call the selection, where the next princess of Ihli is selected from that. And so they normally get 35 girls, and over a time period that number goes down. So that's basically what it's about. I'm going to share a few things that I did like. The storyline, here's my book. Sorry. The storyline, when you're reading so many books, so it's very hard to remember everything, so I've written it down. The storyline, if developed more, I think would have been very nice because it's a dystopian romance with a love triangle trope. The pace is very slow, a bit drawn out for me. Now, there were a few things that I did not like about this book. I did not, there is supposed to be like romance between her and Aspen. I'm not sure, probably it's because it's a, and I don't know why I didn't think about this when I was reading it. It is a YA dystopian romance. So I'm not sure if that's why you didn't really get much I just didn't see the romance. There is a lot more to romance than kissing and physical touch, and I in this book I was about the more told about the romance than shown the romance. I really did not enjoy that. This was a 2.5 to 3 stars for me. I end up sticking with 3 stars. I'll put a picture right here. And moving on, I'm sorry if I keep looking away, just that I read You've Reached Sam, which basically follows Julia and Sam. So Sam passed away, and in the midst of her grief, Julia decides to call his number, and he ends up picking up the phone, and so they get like post death conversations. The storyline was very much unique as it gives you this whole second chance romance vibes, like a second chance, like just connect with the person you loved and lost. This is a 5 points. This was a 5 star reading for me. I really loved this book, the storyline, the ending, and especially like the little flashback memories. Like they do this now and then that I really enjoyed. So the next book that I read was, I think it was Read Between the Lines. This was my first lesbian romance. It was very much interesting. One of the things that I liked about it is how drama-free the romance was, and it basically follows Rosie and what's her name? Let me see. Rosie and Jane. So Rosie owns this bookstore that's passed down to her from her mom, and then she basically, then I think Jane's family basically owns that building, and so they're gonna her company's gonna demolish that building, and so there's a little bit of enemies to lovers there. And Jane also happens to be Rose's like favorite author, so I really love that storyline. This was, I think, a 4.5 rating for me. One of the things that I loved is how the characters communicate their feelings. So at every step of the way, Rosie knew how Jane felt, and Jane knew how Rosie felt. So I really loved that. The next book that I read is The Silent Patient, which basically follows Alicia Benson, and it is told from Tia's point of view, although it's not his story. But I guess the reason why it was because after the death of her husband, Alicia basically went silent, hence the name of the book, and she ended up in this psychiatric institution. And so Tio gets by the hook or the crook, he got employed in that institution to basically find out or to try to get her to speak. There is a wicked plot twist towards the end. I definitely did not see that coming. However, there are a few things that I did not like, but in saying those things, they will end up being spoilers. So I'm just gonna give you the rating. This is a 3 point. This is a 3 star rating for me. The next book I read was The Maid's Diary. Now, this followed Kit. She is a maid, a snoopy maid, so she likes to snoop around in her client's house. And in snooping around, she basically finds out something that she isn't, and that potentially leads to her going missing or her death. You'd have to read to find out. I love this. This is a 4. Why I keep saying 4? This is a 5 star rating for me. Definitely recommend. The next book I read was The Risk. It's a part of, it's book 1 of the Mindf series, which basically follows Lana, which is a serial killer, and Logan. It's kind of a bit of a dark romance, I would say. There's a lot of violence in this, so if that's not your thing, then I definitely not recommend. However, I love the romance between Logan and Lana, especially since it's the opposite attract. Because Logan is an FBI agent, so This book was a 4.5 for me. Loved it. I read book 2, which is Sidetracked. Follows the it follows the rest. It's book 2 of the Mindf series. So in this, there is a serial killer like going around. They call him the boogeyman, and he's like taking girls, and he will basically leaving multiple stab wounds on them. And so throughout the book, we get to see how scared Logan is that the boogeyman might get Lana, especially since boogeyman started targeting him. So while he's so worried, she's like dying for the boogeyman to come after her. So I love that. Not to mention the mini codes throughout the books. So I think if I'm not mistaken, book 2 had like these confunctious codes left, and towards the end you get the meaning behind all these codes. So I love that. At some point, I think I started forgetting to say who wrote the books. It's a rough night for me. So this the Mindfuck was written by S. T. Abby, along with the rest, obviously. So the next book I read was Cross by James Patterson. This follows Alex Cross. His wife is shot, and so throughout the book he's trying to find out who killed his wife. There's also a serial killer called the Butcher going around, and he is like dicing and slicing when he's not raping. So it does have a little bit of violence in it. This was a 3.5 rating for me. Sorry. The next book I read was All He Had Left by Chad Zunker, which basically follows a dad whose daughter got kidnapped after a year after his wife met. He and his wife met in an accident. So throughout the book, we see him trying to find his daughter. This book was a 4-star for me. It was a quick read, 199 pages, so there wasn't really like much. The next book I read is Gone Again, which is my first Minka Kent book. It basically follows this Celia who grew up in a strict religious home. So she basically ran away when she was 18 with her now husband. So the day after her 40th birthday, she's basically missing, and so her family is basically worried as to what's wrong with her, and they're possibly thinking she's gone again. So we get to see her husband and her sister Genevieve being very worried about her. There's a little bit of plot twist which revolves around their younger sister Celeste. It's a good read. This was a 4.5 rating for me as well. The next book I read is Where They Lie, which follows Nora. She is a child service agent. So one of the families that she was following up on, the mom basically has like a social media page. The plane actually crashes that they're on, and so the Nora immediately thinks that it's a daughter, and so she's trying to find out who caused the plane to crash. And there's a little bit of plot twists and a lot of stuff going on. Nora being nosy, being a detective, and also it's kind of like a whatever you call an amateur detective. So she's doing that. This was a 3.5 rating for me. Sorry if I'm rushing. I'm having a mild migraine, and I'm trying to do these with a little what do you call that spoiler as possible. I'm trying to do these videos as spoiler free as possible. The next one is The Lost Victim by Jennifer Hunt. This one was an interesting one. The pace was fast and steady. It follows Ryan. Ryan is like he's a psychologist that works with the FBI from time to time. He also works with the local police. He is a consultant. My brain isn't working. And so there is this they're basically looking for a serial killer. The serial killer actually took his sister as well, so this is a very personal case for him. So you're like they stumble upon like this girl, and when she saw like the pictures of the serial killers, her reaction basically gave them a dead giveaway that she knew him. And so that's why Ryan was called on the case. And throughout the book you get to discover exactly whether or not she knew this serial killer. We get a little background into who she is. Now she doesn't really talk much, but when she does, it's very funny. So you get from that she didn't grow up like with a lot of persons communicating with her. This book does have a little plot twist, which I did enjoy. I did not see it coming. I love how I could feel like the way how Ryan's emotion, like basically his emotions on the page, like I could feel like he's like there talking to me. The girl, by the way, her name is Olivia. I really enjoyed how he spoke to her as well. So this was a 4-star for me. I really enjoyed. The next book I read was The Elite, which is book 2 of the selection series by Kiera. I really think that it would have gotten better. It didn't. I did rate it a little bit higher this time around because this time I could feel like the romance more, and this is more. This book got a higher rating based on Maxon, but America's Head is still confused. It's very much still conflicting. I still wish I'd gotten it from a different point of view. Anyone else? I basically love the way how it seems that America is becoming a little bit emphasis on a little bit more mature. This was a 3.5 rating for me. It's nothing much really happens in this. It's the same selection going on. However, it's down to 6 girls now. So while book 1 had 35, book 2 has 6, and it originally should have been 5, but because Maxon wanted to keep America, so he chose 6. There's a lot going on. If you read the book, there's still like the mini attacks, which annoys me, but this is a 3.5 rating for me. I'm hoping, based on what person said, book 3, it gets better, so I'm really counting on that, to be honest. So the next book I read is Layla. And while I did not do a May wrap up, I did read Reminders of Him, which is my first Colleen Hoover book. And then I read Regretting You, which is my second Colleen Hoover book. So I can say I'm very much disappointed by Layla. I went in, and that's why sometimes I think it's not good to go into a book with expectation based on previous books by the author. So I read Layla by Colleen Hoover, and the guy, his name was Lead. He was very controlling. I did not like that about him, and although towards the end you might see as to why he was, it's still this was a paranormal romance. Let me just get that out there, with a potential love at first sight. The pace was good, or it was okay. I love the Jerry Seinfeld reference. I love the storyline when you find out that Willow is a ghost and all. I love the suspense surrounding Willow. My only problem is, since the book was named Layla, I was hoping that it would have been told by Layla's point of view. And when you get toward the more you read from my point of view, I think I would have loved to even get a dual point of view. I did not. Reed was toxic. He was a toxic guy to me. I I I wanted to love this book. I'm not gonna force myself. This was a 1.5. We're just gonna leave it at that. And if you've read this book and you loved it, I'm really happy for you. We're moving on. I read Hate Notes. This is my second the Keeland and Penelope Ward book, and I'm wondering when I read this read Hate Notes, I was wondering, how did I not read a book by this author sooner? This is a romance. I call it sweet and spicy. It's a boss employee trope. The pace was steady. It's still from Charlotte, who is single and she was unemployed at the beginning, and Reed, who happens to be Charlotte's boss. The banter between these two was off the roof. I love the dual point of view. I always do. The proposal is to die for. I mean, you're gonna have to read it for yourself. I I love Iris is Reed's grandmother. Iris is one that hired Charlotte, and I love the relationship that Iris and Charlotte end up developing throughout the book. Well, they've had that relationship from the start, but I love how Iris like basically stood by Charlotte. I love that. I love Charlotte bucket list. Wink wink. She calls it something else. And Charlotte was bold. I love how in charge she was, and she knew exactly what she wanted. This was a I'm gonna have to read this book again. This was a 5-star for me. Now we're moving on to Run on Red by Noelle West. Ihli. Sorry if I'm squinting my eyes. I'm trying to see if I'm saying it right. This is a thriller which basically follows two girls that were on their way to this bonfire, and they basically saw a vehicle on the road, like they were being followed. Turns out that they were ran off the road, and then the guys kidnapped them, and we basically get to see Olivia and Laura fighting for their lives. Throughout the book, you find out what's causing all of this. I love the tension. My heart kept racing, and throughout the book, I did not know if either of the girls would have survived, and I would have been fine either way. I love a thriller that gives me the thrills. 5 stars. Now I read The Wedding Confession by J.J. Knight. This basically follows like this is a romance. It's a childhood trope, so they basically know each other from childhood. They reconnect at the wedding. Things happen. There is a little there. He never like he only has a guy. His name is Drew. He only has one night stands, and so Ensley dare him to like, let's go on 3 dates, and if after 3 dates you don't want anything else, you can end it. You know what happened. It's a romance. They got together. It was all fine. This was a 3-star for me. I especially love like the ending of the book, especially the way he proposed. So that kind of like lifted my spirit. The next book I read was Unmissing by Minka Kent, which is I think my second or my first Minka Kent book. I'm not sure. This basically follows a woman who was missing for 10 years. She turns up, she's no longer missing. Her husband is now married, and she basically pulls up at the house of her husband's new wife, trying to basically reconnect with her husband. There is a plot twist, and suspected but unsuspected plot twist. I'm gonna share a few things that I love. Sorry if my mood isn't the best right now. So there is a dual point of view. We get to read the story from Merit. Merit is basically the husband's new wife. The husband's name is Luca. And the ex-wife, or the missing wife, her name is Lydia. There is this woman in the book also called Delphine. I really loved how Delphine basically took care of Lydia, and I love the plot twist, which is definitely not expected. This is a 5-star reading for me as well. I'm only at, I'm just at book 20, so I'm almost done. I read Or Else. This is my two-star rating. It's basically in regards to like this guy, Andy. He basically starts seeing Rachel. Rachel was married. Then he receives a note that he should stop seeing Rachel or else, only for Rachel's husband to turn up dead, and then Rachel is missing with her 2 kids. It's very slow and drawn out. I normally don't do spoilers, but I was like expecting something like more dramatic than what ended up happening. So there is no suspense. So you know how someone goes missing and you're like, what happened to? And you're like, and the author like tries to like carry you around over the mountain to the sea, and then you're all like curious. No, I did not have any of that. I also did not like the storyline. It was very flat for me. 2 stars. Now this is Dirty Letters by Keeland and Penelope Ward. This is my first book by this author or authors, and it's a sweet, spicy romance. It's a pen pal trope. The pace is steady. It follows Luca. She is agoraphobic, which means she has like anxiety disorder. As someone who troubles with a little anxiety, Luca was very relatable. And we follow Griffin, who turns out to be a musician. So something happened, and Luca basically stopped writing Griffin. He was not pleased about that. So 8 years later, he basically wrote her a song saying she's the worst. Wrote her a letter, saying like she's the worst. And she decides to reply to that letter to basically let him know exactly what happened. They basically reconnect. Throughout this book, I was like smiling. She also seen like a therapist. They call him Doc, but his name is Chester. He's very sweet. He loves bird. So I love the way how he incorporates like the knowledge of birds throughout his therapy session. That was cool. It was a page turner. I like could not put my phone down. Wink wink. There were some part of it that was sad. And then it was like a roller coaster of emotions. Then I love the whole charade between Cole and Miranda, because Cole, Griffin's stage name is actually Cole Archer, and so because they were now older, they did not know what each other looked like. So Luca basically pulled up at his house, and when he came out and asked who she was, she basically told him that she was Miranda, and then he told her he was Cole, and they were like, even though they both knew who each other were, they were like pretending that they didn't. So I love that whole scene. And I'm glad that they got their happy ending, and I enjoy reading their dirty letters. This is a 5-star for me. Really enjoyed. Moving on to another 5-star. This is Scarlet Angel, which is book 3 of the Mindf series, which basically follows the previous killer from book 2, which is the boogeyman. He basically died in this book, and so throughout that, Lana and Ihli basically start bonding, because now Ihli knows Lana's secret, because Lana finally confessed, and so they kind of became friends. Ihli basically get a chapter of the book herself, so we get it from her point of view for this book, which I really did enjoy. Once again, I was loving the codes. There is still the continued tension of whether or not Logan was going to find out. that she's actually the serial killer or to find out her past. Really love that. There's also depiction of violence in this. As you know, Lana is a serial killer, so she's killing like a bunch of guys. Throughout the book, you'll eventually find out what they did, and I hate when like the past is so drawn out, but the more you read the books, the more you understand that the the story is like when she gives you like a depiction of her background, it coincides with the current book. So I love what the author did. This is written by S.T. Abbey. Not sure if that's a pen name, but that's the name of the author in the book. Moving on, I've been now this book is a book that I've been pandering to read for I think over a year, and someone basically reached out to me to have us buddy read this, and I really enjoyed that actually. So I'm hoping in the future I get to do a lot more buddy reads. So this book is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Let me say, this book would have been a lot more sadder if I had not already known the backstory of Achilles and Patroclus, because I did watch Troy, The Fall of a City, so I already basically knew what would happen. But I love Madeline's twist to it. Now, this is a Greek mythology. The trope is not childhood friends, not sure. It was a clean romance, I should say. In the beginning, I have to add, I love how Patroclus basically describes Achilles. You can tell that he is like in love with him even before he knew he was in love. So I love that. He did have a feet fetish, if wink wink. It was a real page turner, even though me and my buddy, the girl that I buddy read with, we were reading like 52 pages a day. I was like, at the end of my 50 pages, I was like so tempted to move on, but so we read this over a week and then we'd give feedback, and I've never buddy read with anyone before, and so it was refreshing, and I can't wait to do it again. Uh, the pace, it started off very slow, but eventually it did pick up, so I really loved that, and I loved the ending that, I love that we, Patroclus and Achilles got a better ending, because if you watch, but the only movie I've watched with them, if I recall correctly, they did not get an ending like this. I'm glad that they got like the best ending possible. My Theseus, which is a sea nymph, which is Achilles' mother, in the end, I finally like what she did for Patroclus. Really love that. This was a 5-star rating for me as well. The next book I read is All the Lies, and this is book 4 of the Mindf series by S.T. Abbey. This is a romance. Opposite attract, the pace is steady. We're still following Logan, the FBI agent, and Lana. Now, there is still violence because she's still killing these guys. Once again, I still love the little codes, and we're finally getting the meaning, as I said, behind these codes. I love how suspicious Leonard is an FBI agent, so he basically started getting suspicious of Lana, because I think in this book something happened. I think they're back at her hometown where everything started that caused her to go on this rampage, and so something happened and she had to defend him. It was either keep her identity secret or let them kill him, and she was like, nope, I'm not gonna let them kill him. So she wanted to save him, and I loved how we basically we're finally getting the pieces behind her revenge, and the tension is still tight, because I think from like the up until like the last few pages, Logan still did not know that Lana was a serial killer, even though they started figuring out that there's a possibility that the serial killer might be female. So I love the tension. This is also a 5-star for me. And the last book I read is The Perfect Marriage by Jeneva Rose. Let me start by saying I love the way how this plot twist was written. This book basically follows like a married couple. There is Sarah Morgan, she's a lawyer, and then there's Adam Morgan, who is an aspiring author, or an author. He has a few books out, but he's like trying to write his next big book. He also has a mistress, Carl, Kelly, and Kelly is discovered in he and Sarah's like lake home, and so Sarah, as a lawyer, decided that she's going to defend her husband because she still loves him. And so throughout the book, we see her defending him. And although he was still convicted of the crime, but it's a plot twist. This book was a bit drawn out for me. There wasn't much that I liked about it. I definitely did not like Adam. I did not like his mother, Eleanor. And I did not think Adam deserved to have gone to prison for the crimes. If you read the book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's a plot twist that made me give this book a four star. Otherwise, it would have probably been a 2-star for me. The plot twist was not what I expected at all, which I guess it's a plot twist you shouldn't. But I think given everything, it was just too long for me. But it's a long night. Sorry if I seem a little bit down. I'm having a migraine right now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends. Go ahead and subscribe. I would love to see you in my next video. Don't forget I'm doing a giveaway, so you'd have to subscribe to basically be notified when I post stuff about the giveaway. So comment down below what book you'd like for the giveaway, or just comment how many books you've read. I would just love to interact with you. I do want to thank you again for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay fit, and I would love to see you in another video.